this year, our goal was 50 again. We're like, boy, that's a pretty big goal when a bunch of people just gave us money in August. But this year we broke 60, which was crazy. So I was pretty blown away with it.
Welcome to Fundraising Events. During each episode, we will chat with an influencer in the event industry who's been instrumental in helping nonprofits raise more funds. Our goal is to share helpful tips, tricks, and stories that will empower you to raise more with your future events. Now, a little bit about our sponsor. This event is brought to you by GiveSignup, RunSignup, your fundraising event technology experts. Next time you have a fundraising event, try GiveSignup, RunSignup. Whether it's a run, walk, ride, golf tournament, gala, or fundraising campaign, raise more, save time easily with the GiveSignup, RunSignup purpose-built supporter engagement platform. Get started for free today at givesignup.org. I'm Brian Jenkins, and I'm joined today by Eric Tostrud. Welcome to Fundraising Events, Eric.
Hey, thanks, Brian. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I'm enjoying the MJ poster behind them, behind you there.
You know, I've had that poster since, well, I think I'm a lot older than you are. So since that poster was actually originally printed, I want to say late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a 76ers fan.
Gotcha.
But I can vividly remember the first basketball memory I have was Suns versus Bulls.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Charles
I remember
Barkley
that.
just going crazy. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I remember that one well. But, you know, and the Bulls pulled it out in the end. I think that
Yeah.
was the Jordan kick to Kerr to win one of the bigger games. Yeah.
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 I
Yeah,
think
I was a big Bulls fan.
1993. Yeah.
Yeah, yep. I was a big Bulls fan. I actually liked him right when he went to college, and they sucked, and they always got beat by the Pistons. And then they started winning championships, and everyone became a Bulls fan. But
That's right.
yeah, now I must admit though that since he left, I jumped right off the wagon. I couldn't tell you. I don't think any players on the Bulls.
So let's talk a little bit about you and Pedal for Parkinson's. So maybe let's just start a little bit about you.
So my background, I worked at a bank for 14 years. I was just a mortgage guy, finance guy in banking, and started to get into personal training on a part-time basis in 2008, and then went full-time with fitness in 2014. So I actually run my own gym here. I'm sitting in my office there now, and run my own gym and train all day and kind of living the dream, so to speak. You know, doing what I'm passionate about. So
let's talk about kind of the interesting part of how did you get started with this program that you have?
yeah, so Peloton for Parkinson's came about from in December of 2015. A bunch of people that I personal train, and I have fitness classes and whatnot, and do some, you know, I've always kind of done the online fitness thing. A whole bunch of people chipped in and surprised me with a Peloton spin bike. I'm guessing you're probably familiar with those. They're pretty big now. Back then, no one really knew about them. And those guys called me down to a local restaurant here in town in Hudson, Wisconsin. And I thought we were just having drinks, and there's about 50 people there and a bunch of people online on Zoom. And they surprised me with this Peloton bike just as a thank you. And I said then, you know, I was totally caught off guard and overwhelmed. And I said then, I'm gonna figure out a way to pay this forward. I don't know how you pay forward a $3,000 spin bike, but I'm gonna figure it out. And fast forward to that April, it was actually April 1st, because I have the selfie to prove it. April 1st, that morning, I had heard, you know, I kind of had followed Team Fox a little bit, and Michael J. Fox and his, you know, and his efforts with fighting Parkinson's. And that morning I'd heard, oh, April's Parkinson's Awareness Month. My mom, Judy, had Parkinson's disease. And I'm like, boy, that's cool. I should figure out something to do there. Nothing's clicking yet.
Yep.
Well, that afternoon, my mom and dad come for a visit. My mom, you know, back then was still pretty mobile and able to move, and she loved gardening. So she'd come up in the spring and start pulling weeds and doing all my gardening for me. And I was walking her out to the car later in the afternoon, and all of a sudden it was literally a light bulb moment. And I said, Mom, stop. I said, I want to take a selfie with you. She's like, what? I held my phone up, and I'm actually looking at the selfie right here on my wall in my office. And I said, you know, that spin bike those people gave me? And she's like, mm-hmm. I said, you know, I saw that this is Parkinson's Awareness Month. I'm going to ride that all day the last Friday of April. I'm going to take every class. I think there's 10 or 12 classes that Peloton offers. I'm going to take every class and I'm going to try and raise some money for Team Fox. And my mom's, she looks at me and says, "That's nice, honey." And so it started with me and I have my third stall in my garage walled off back then, and that was kind of where I trained. And it started with my Peloton spin bike, and I had two other just regular spin bikes. And I rode all day that first year in 2016. That last Friday, I think there were 11 Peloton classes that day. I rode from 5 a.m. to 7 p.m. I had some friends come join me intermittently during the day, and raised I think a little over $4,000, close to $5,000 for Team Fox. So that's where it started.
That's great. So after it got started, what happens? Let's take people through the progression. So let's kind of go through, year 2 to now.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So really what I found that first year is, it was really kind of built around Peloton that first year. That was what I was familiar with. I reached out to a few people in the community, and I found so many people that were affected by Parkinson's. Mom had it, dad had it, grandma passed away from it. Using really social media. Back then, Peloton, now the community is so gigantic, it's kind of hard to connect with people. But back then it was big, but small enough to where, you'd reach out to one person and you'd be getting this feedback. I'm like, wow, there are a lot of people affected by this disease. I was really kind of blown away, and the outpouring of, "Oh, this is such a great thing. I'm so glad you're doing this." These people I didn't know hopped on. They're like, "I want to do it." And back then it was just, "Hey, I'm just raising some money. If you want to ride, ride on me, ride with me. I'll look for you on the leaderboard." There wasn't any real structure to it.
Right.
But, hundreds of people joined me that first year. The second year I did it again out of my garage, basically the same concept. We weren't our own charity or anything yet, doing it all for Team Fox. And we raised, I want to say the second year, I want to say it was like between $8,000 and $10,000. We doubled every year. We've managed to double. And, still then it was still, "Hey, just join me if you want to donate, feel free to donate. If you just want to join me, join me." And we had hundreds of people, still the Peloton community, ride with us. 2018, Peloton actually reached out to me and said, "Hey, where I live in Hudson, Wisconsin. We're about 30 minutes from the Mall of America." They said, "Hey, we heard about this cool event you're doing. Would you be willing to do that at our store in the Mall of America?" They didn't really have a store. It was kind of more one of those kiosks out there. They had their little building and stuff. They said, "We'll ship in some Peloton bikes. We'll rope it off. You can do your ride in the Mall of America." I'm like, "Oh yeah, that sounds like fun." And we actually had some people fly in for it. Kevin Schmid, one of my good friends that I met through the Peloton bike and through Facebook, who has Parkinson's, he flew in for it, rode all day with me. And the Mall of America year in 2018, I think we ended up being a little over 23,000 when all was said and done that year. And then really in the end of 2018, 2019, we kind of started thinking bigger picture with this thing. And the Peloton community has been great, and they're always going to be a part of it. But we wanted to help it get bigger and not limit it to just people who own this Peloton spin bike.
Yeah, because
it's a super expensive spin bike. It was still then, now with COVID, a whole lot of people want a Peloton, but we wanted to start opening it up and saying, "Hey, just hop on a spin bike, go to a spin class." We wanted to start getting it bigger and really kind of establishing it. We felt like, hey, this is something that's got traction. This is something that can continue to grow. And that's when I started working with runsignup.com at that time too. And in 2019, we had it here at a local gym. I didn't have my gym yet. We had it downtown at a gym called Riverfront Athletic Club, who was just awesome. And unfortunately, my mom, a week before the event, passed away. But my morbid joke, and she would appreciate this, so I can say it, is she did it on purpose because she knew if she died a week before the event, we'd raise more money. And so she was, and I mean, her quality of life was very bad at the end there. So we are actually thankful for it that she got to break away from that body. But in 2019, we ended up getting over 50,000 for 2019. And then 2020 comes. Well, we were planning after party with a band and like we were
Yeah.
really going to go big. And then
Nothing.
COVID, so it was shut her down. Let's wait for it. I actually have my 2020. This is my 2020 shirt. If you can see it, it says
Yep.
every year until there's a cure. And then on the bottom, yep,
Yep.
even in a pandemic,
Yep.
we ended up doing the 2020 event. We ended up doing just in August. So we put it off, put it off, put it off. The end of July, I said to my wife, Sarah, if we don't do this now, if we don't do this next month, we're not going to do it. And we said we're going to do it every year. So we're doing it. We've got this big turf space. We can open the doors. We can have people mask up, put the bikes, 6 feet apart. And we raised I think just under 40 this last August. So like what, 7 months ago? And then now to this year, we just had our event 2 weekends ago, 2 or 3. It's hard to, the end of we actually moved it to a Saturday this year.
Mm-hmm.
And this year, our goal was 50 again. We're like, boy, that's a pretty big goal when a bunch of people just gave us money in August. But this year we broke 60, which was crazy. So I was pretty blown away with it, and the biggest things, and we can kind of expand on this more if you like to. The biggest things between year one, it was just me riding all day. Year two, me riding all day. Year three in the mall, there were, I think, 4 of us, Kevin, Scott, 4 tops, I think, riding all day, some virtual, some with me there in the mall. 2019 probably stayed about that number, 4 or 5. In 2020, in August, we had 8 riding all day with me. And now this past year, the real big difference was I started putting it out there as kind of a challenge. Like, hey, I've got gym members. You want to do something challenge? Let's see if you can ride a spin bike from 5 a.m. to 7 p.m. And we had 29 people ride all day.
Wow.
And that was huge. And honestly, it was the big difference maker. If you wanted to ride all day, I said you had to try and fundraise, and you had to set a goal of $500. Doesn't mean you have to donate 500. You had to set a goal. And they actually all averaged over $1,000 raised between the 29 of them. So that was super helpful. I mean, it really took a lot of the weight off my shoulders, and it's like,
Yeah.
Another light bulb moment of, all right, yeah, this is how we can grow this thing, is really push that challenge piece of it. So
Yeah, it's good marketing for the gym too.
yeah,
Because
yep,
people will do it, and then even people that aren't members of your gym might be interested. So it's kind of a double whammy for you. Is one, you get to introduce them to something you're personally passionate about, and then two,
yep.
you could introduce them to the gym as well.
Yeah, it was, it was big because we share our building is TCO, who acquired this Catalyst Sports Medicine, which is who I originally rented space from. Twin Cities Orthopedic, who's very big around here. They bought out Catalyst, so they actually let us use their giant 40 by 50-yard turf space.
Oh wow.
And then my gym's connected to that, so we had everything over there. And then we had my gym where I am here, that's about 4,000 square feet, recovery area. This is where we had the party and all that. So it was a really nice. It worked real well with that. And my gym, and then the part of our charity too, we do what's called Rock Steady Boxing, which is boxing classes and really just fitness classes for people with Parkinson's. So it was a good marketing opportunity, that's for sure. I'm not going to lie about that. So
Yeah, and one thing that I think we haven't talked about is originally you were fundraising for Team Fox, correct?
mhm.
And so,
Yep.
at what point did you end up, creating your own 501c3?
We just did that last year.
Okay.
And it really came down to, and this year was the first year we pushed it. And in August it was, hey, everything's Team Fox. And this year we said, okay, hey, we're still raising money for Team Fox. We love Team Fox. 100% of the proceeds go towards Parkinson's research. That's a big piece of what Team Fox does, is if I give them $20,000, from our charity, it's all going towards research. They don't pay any bills. They don't pay any salary with it, which is great. But then with our Peloton for Parkinson's 501c, it's that local charity option for people. So, a lot of times when people give to charity, it's like, hey, I can give to the big national charity, and Team Fox is a great one, and I know where it goes. But sometimes people are like, boy, I'd really like to see a local impact here. And so the Peloton for Parkinson's charity, we have set up this Rock Steady Boxing program that I'm really just getting off the floor now because of COVID, is part of that. So, when people donate to that, it helps buy equipment for the boxers. It'll help, let's say we have someone who can't afford the program, help set up scholarships. I have a friend down south who does the same thing, who has a rock steady program. She just bought a van that goes out and picks up her people to bring them to class. So it's a more local, if people want their charity money going to something more that they can see and they can, get their hands on, it gave them that option. And it ended up being this year, the first year we did it, it was about a 50-50 split because people could choose. And it was about a 50-50 split with donations, which was great. That was honestly exactly what I wanted. I kind of thought the Team Fox would be heavier, and it ended up being about 50-50, which was awesome.
That's great. And one of the things that you mentioned early on that I think is somewhat unique is that you've been integrating technology into your fundraising efforts and also just the event itself, basically
Yep.
since the beginning. So maybe you can talk a little bit about what technology you've used and how you've used it.
Yeah, I mean the biggest thing, my gym and just my fitness program in general has been very technology heavy from day one. I started playing around with Zoom years ago with fitness, and when I opened the Zone, which is my gym, we had online and live classes going at the same time. I was filming live classes before COVID.
Sure.
With Peloton for Parkinson's, it was just taking the concept that I was already doing with my gym and be like, all right, let's make the event. Hey, you can come here but if you're not comfortable because of COVID or you don't live here close, we're going to do it all on Zoom. So we had Zoom classes, and I'd tell people, I'm like, hey, this is no Peloton. I mean, I don't got a production crew. We don't have multiple camera angles. I'm not as ripped as their instructors, but we're going to have a good time. And so we had our rides, we had 11 rides this last Saturday that we did it. We had 11 rides. We zoomed them out, and I have a mixing board on my cart. I have two projectors throwing up screens so we could see everybody, and the mixing board allows me to control the music sound, because that's a big part of the online experience
Yeah.
and really like the trickiest part of the technology, having the music go to the people online and having it go to the people live, and not having it too loud in one place or too quiet in one place.
Yeah.
But just trial and error, you kind of figure that out. And so we did that. I really, the biggest promotion for it will probably always be social media, and primarily Facebook. You create the event, you do what everybody does. You share. I was trying to share stories of our all day riders, what their connection was to Parkinson's, and really just pump it out there, and use Facebook ads, and just really, take advantage of technology versus flyers on windshields and stuff like that.
Yeah. So that was kind of my next question is marketing. So you have a Facebook event and you're
Yep.
buying Facebook ads. So
Yep.
maybe what are you doing with those Facebook ads? Like, what is your call to action?
So typically it was, it would send them to the sign up page. It would send them to,
Okay.
so I created my own link with GoDaddy and then have it push right to my run sign up page. And it
Okay.
would take them to the run sign up page. My main page with run sign up I had a video created by a company called Bolster Media, who is run by a high school friend of mine, Jason Hammond, who they actually created this video it was right after the Mall of America. So May of 2018, they tried to do some philanthropic work every year, and they created hey, this is what this event is video for me, super professional, for free. So I have that right on that main page, where if people are like, what is this thing? I want more info. That video does a great job of telling the early years of P4P. So I just, had it go right to there. In Facebook, you can target, you can say, where do you want this thing to go? And most of the time I was sending it out to the United States, but then I would, you can say interests. So I would put cycling, I would put Parkinson's Foundation, Michael J. Fox Foundation. Not everything is available to tag, but I would tag it, and I would play with that. Sometimes I would just do an ad that is geared towards people looking for spin challenges. And then, and so it was like just athletes, and hey, I might hit a couple people who have a connection to Parkinson's, or they're just looking for the challenge of, I want to ride a spin bike all day. Hey, and I get this t-shirt, and people want to do that stuff. Other times it was more the personal ad. The, you know, do you have someone in your life who's affected by Parkinson's? And then some ads were geared towards just around here. Hey,
Yeah.
this ad's about the live event in Hudson, 25 to 50-mile radius. Here's the ad. Some ads not about the live event in Hudson, about just the virtual event. So I would do a mix of the whole event, the virtual event, the live event, and just put them out. I spent a few $100 in ads, but it worked. Because I tracked him with Facebook pixels
Yeah.
and all that. So
That's great. Did you use Facebook fundraising this year?
I did not. I want to. Like, it kind of got to one of those things where I think who was I talking to? Was it Amanda or somebody
Yeah,
that
probably.
runs that? I'm like, I got to get that set up for next year. And I
Yeah.
think you and I had a little conversation about that. It was kind of one of those things where I'm like thinking of next year going, I need some help so that I can look into things like that. So I can get it set up ahead of time. But
Yeah.
from hearing about it now, I'm like, oh, I definitely need to do that. Like, that's a great, I had my 29 people, all day riders out there sharing their personal link. And the big things too, I think one key thing for when you get people to join you is to make it as easy as you can for them. So, like, little tricks that I've learned, like, I'm an iPhone guy, right? And so I would say, hey, I created your link for you. Here's how you do a shortcut to your link in your phone, so you don't got to type that thing out every time. You
Right.
can just type P for P, don't DON, and it'll fill in their link for them. And so I did quick little how-to videos, and I'd send it out to them in an email, or I'd just email them directly. But I tried to help them make it as easy as they can to share the information. I feel like that really helped. People are like, I didn't know my phone did this. I'm like,
Right.
yeah, it's super slick, but a lot of people don't know about it. But it saved them the annoyance of, I got to type out my link every time someone asks me, for
Yeah,
the
and
donation.
that's the
So
nice thing about Facebook fundraising, is that if you have a subset of people that are heavy Facebook users,
yep,
um, so it shows up in their notifications as people, donate or comment on it. So it creates
yep,
continual interaction. It has really no impact for people that aren't heavy Facebook users, but a small subset of those people are like, oh, well, this makes it 10 times easier for me. So they
yeah,
may raise more money with less effort because
yep,
Facebook is actually doing that work that you're doing manually, which is like, here's how you share your link and make sure you're sharing your link and things like that.
yep, yep. Yeah, that and the other big thing too was giving. I set up rewards for them, and
Yes.
that went over real well. The first one was buy them lunch. We had Pita Pit bring their food truck over here. We had a 2-hour window of lunch. And then you earn the Peloton definition shirt. You can earn a sweatshirt. You can earn 20 minutes in our Normatec recovery thing. That was a big piece of it too, and they got excited because I'd make a little picture if they reached it, and I'd post it on their Facebook wall. Hey, you just reached
That's
free
great.
lunch for the event.
I think that's something that's not utilized enough, which is fundraiser rewards.
Mm,
And we can roll into kind of the other things, which is one of the cool things about fundraiser rewards is it's a way to do activation with sponsors. Um,
yeah.
so like I think you mentioned you had some protein giveaways and things like that, or they just gave you protein. So maybe let's talk a little bit about your sponsors and how they've been supporting you.
Yeah, the sponsors, the thing I've kind of figured out with sponsors too is to get a good mix of local and kind of national. Is to really try and get both. Locally, a big help this year was a t-shirt company in town called Onsite Apparel. And I reached out to him and I said, hey, this is what I'm doing. I said I would love to use you guys. I said, if you're interested in being a sponsor, I'll, just give me some sort of credit on the t-shirts and I'll add you as a sponsor. Here's what our reach is. I always make sure I tell people, hey, our reach weekly for the 2 months leading up to this event are somewhere between 10 and 30,000 people, depending on just kind of what week it is. And a lot of companies, especially small ones, struggle with social media. So if I can tell them, hey, I'm going to be putting your business name on stuff and it's going to be going out to, sometimes 30, 50,000 people in a week, that's very eye-opening to them. They're like, great. So this t-shirt company signed up and said, hey, how about we do everything at cost? I'm like, yep, you will that's a great sponsorship that saves us a ton of money, that leaves more money for donations. So we got local companies. I talked about Pita Pit to come bring lunch. These local companies that can have a great impact. We can in turn, instead of just asking for something, I tried to give them something in return, some social media reach. I
Yeah.
have this software that can create little GIFs and little video intros with their logo. So I made them those. They took me 5 minutes, but I'd be like, hey, thanks so much. Here's this thing I did with your logo that's kind of this cool little technology thing. Use it as you wish. And they're, oh, that's really cool. And then nationally, I just reached out to the companies that I use here in my gym, Ascent Protein, Fit Aid, RX Bar, Incrediwear, these knee sleeves that us old people like to wear because our bodies are getting beat up now. But just reach out to them, said, hey, here's what I'm doing. Here's this video, this backstory of this charity, which is huge. That video is done more for our charity than I could ever imagine. And just said, hey, is there some product would you be interested in being a sponsor by donating some product? And every one of them like, yeah, great. Yep. Here's what we'll send here. We'll send this, we'll send that, protein water, Fit Aid. Here's some knee sleeves to give away during rides, and if they did giveaways like that, drip accessory towel is a towel that goes over your handlebars for Peloton. And I said, okay, at the end of every ride, I'm going to do a virtual
Hmm.
giveaway of the drip accessory, and I'm going to live Facebook, and I'll tag your drip accessory page on Facebook, and I'm going to do an Incrediwear knee sleeve giveaway to the live riders in gym, and I take it and throw it over my head, and they fight for it, and I'll tag you. And so we did those kind of things for the sponsors that gave product, and those big companies. That's for them to throw out a few $100s of product is it's nothing to them. It's a big deal to us. It's not a big expense to them. They can do that all day. So and it just to me, it legitimizes your event. If you can put
Oh,
Fit Aid, RX Bar, Ascent Protein, Incrediwear, if you can put those things on your T-shirt and on your advertisements for your charity. So yeah,
because your event is so fundraising driven, meaning people are trying to raise $1,000, per rider. Um, from a sponsorship standpoint, you can actually focus on sponsors things that your rider be interested in, which I think is going to create significant retention. Like if I'm someone that does this event, I raise $1,000, and I come to the event and I see you chucking knee braces behind and like all this cool stuff, right?
mm-hmm.
I'm marking this on my calendar for next year. And when I'm done, I'm going to say, well, put me in for next year, because
Yeah,
it's just like, it's like the price is right or something, right? Like, I mean, everybody
yeah,
walks
yeah,
away winning.
yeah,
And
yep,
so it's
yep,
all fun. Whereas sponsors sometimes are used to like, okay, well, give me $10,000, right? And I think that is
yeah.
unique to your event, is that it's pretty intimate, but you are able to give a lot of value to the sponsors, but more importantly, give a lot of value to these people who are raising money for the cause.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, it really hit home this year just having all that stuff, and the all day riders in particular with these sponsors giving us all this product. I was able to put together these little kind of, almost like a welcome basket next to their bike, and I used these companies that we made flags, and we really made the all day riders feel special. We had flags on the back of the bike. We had I called it the Dare Jar. It was an orange bucket with our logo and Team Fox's logo, and people could dare them like, hey, I'll give you $10 if you get your RPM to 100 right now. And we raised $1,000 by people throwing cash in
Oh
buckets,
wow. Yeah.
and just having fun. Like like most of my members were there riding, and they know that for me to get, we use these things called my zones, which are heart rate monitors, and
Yeah.
you can see your tile, right? Well, I don't get to red often. I'm an endurance guy. So for me to go to red on a spin bike, I'm pushing some pretty heavy watts, and it's killing me to get above 90% of my max heart rate. Well, they all start coming up to my bucket. We're on ride like 8. Hey, if you go to yellow for the whole next song, here I'm going to donate this. And I said, what if I go to red? Will you double it? And then they all started. I about died, but it was like a $200 4 minutes. I was like, all right,
Yeah.
and they had enjoyed. They like seeing their trainer die. Who doesn't?
Yeah.
So yeah, it was fun.
So let's talk a little bit about the revenue versus the expenses. I think that's another really interesting part of your event, is it's pretty high
Mhm.
revenue and pretty low expenses.
Yeah, so we ended up, our total kind of gross transactions with donations and everything was over 60,000. Our expenses this year, and for us they were high they were a few $1,000s, but a lot of it was spent on things we're going to be able to reuse. These flags for the back of the
Sure.
bikes, buckets. I bought a bunch of banners, which was through a member who her company did them at cost to be a spot, that whole thing. So we got a whole bunch of banners. What else did we get? We got some things for the party, some tables and chairs that we'll be able to use for years coming up. So we just, we don't spend a ton of money, as this thing grows. Next year we really want to get the after party to be its own event, so people are like, I don't want to ride a spin bike, but I'll come listen to a band and drink some beer and do some silent auction stuff. So next year we'll probably have the expense of hiring a band and some things, but we've really kept the expenses down. And I think a lot of it can be attributed just to not being afraid to ask people to help.
Sure.
Calling companies and saying, hey, I need this. And how I do it, I always say, okay, hey, I need these banners. I'm going to get them from you no matter what. But if you can maybe do them at cost or something, I'll add you as a sponsor, and here's how our sponsorship works. And I just leave it in their court. And honestly, I haven't been turned down yet. They're always like, yeah, I'll do it at cost to be on the shirt, and you put me on social media and this and that. And, we acknowledge them all at the end of each ride. We had all our instructors read them out, and just, and really try to, be grateful like you should be for businesses stepping up. So it helps keep those costs down. If I were to go buy those 10 knee braces I gave out, that would have been a $400 expense.
Oh,
But
wow.
Incredible, they're $40 a piece retail. Incredible gives them to me. Now I just gave away, like, people are like, wow, I just got a $40 knee brace, chucked it over his head, and I caught
Right.
it. Awesome. But that didn't cost me anything. So it helps to ask.
That's right. So, the last question I have on my list, and then we'll get to the teardown, is you mentioned that there's some others that are interested in growing other locations. So maybe you could share a little bit about that.
Yeah, we had, before COVID, I had a person in Florida, a person out east, I want to say in New York State, someone in California and Arizona, who they had messaged me, and they either had a spin connection, a really big connection to Parkinson's, something that made me think, hey, would you be interested in holding a satellite event for Peloton for Parkinson's? I'm like, you can use our run sign up page. I'll create it as a separate event. So if you have somebody who wants to sign up, they just say, oh, I'm going to the Phoenix, Arizona one, and they
Yeah.
click it. And then COVID happened, and we kind of just were like, let's just get this thing done. And in last August, and then this year. But next year we plan on hopefully having, at least 2 or 3 satellite locations, because it's easily duplicatable. It's here, I'll set it up on the page, I'll do the technology work, I'll walk you through how I do things. Here's how I do it, and here's some things you want to think about spending money on. Maybe you don't spend money on some of this right away, and you just get it off the ground, and you have 10 bikes there. And with Run Sign Up, the thing that's so great about Run Sign Up, honestly, is just the control that it allows me. I've looked at other pages, and and with our bikes, we had 40 bikes this year at the event. While most pages, it would have been hard to keep track of who's going to be on which bike, and are my races full? Run Sign Up, create a question. They just clicked which ride they were doing. It made it very easy, which then if I have a satellite location, I'm like, hey, here, I'll do this for you for year one. I'll take the time to set it all up for you. You tell me your rides. Year two, once I explain it to them, year two, I'll say, hey, here, just you go in, and here's how you edit. Here's how you edit and do everything. So it was, the satellite aspect of it, I'm excited about for next year, because I think it'll really, I think it really could take us from a on average $50,000 event to a $100,000 event, because
Yeah.
all you need is one person with passion that is connected to this thing. And if they've got the drive, and I help them in things that I know how to do, they'll be able to pull it off just like I do.
Absolutely. And with the excitement and new spinners out there who are new to
Yep.
spinning, get excited about it. I think you're in a very good opportunity for people to say, "Oh, what am I going to train for?" Well,
Yeah.
something to train for, feel good about it, and fundraising events, people generally feel pretty good at the end of it, even if they're tired.
Yeah. Totally. Well, and too, with this, I'm 48 years old. spinning's a heck of a lot easier than running a marathon.
That's right.
Your butt gets a little sore because you're sitting a lot, but like knee pain. And I'll be doing the New York Marathon with Team Fox in November, which is for me to, this charity. We really want this Peloton for Parkinson's charity to become its own independent thing and have the Rocksteady boxing piece and really get that community engagement. And by having another event, basically 6 months away from our main event, I think will just help keep the name out there. And then using the give sign up option with run sign up to have a place that's always out there. People can always donate. I can be
Right.
adding events if I want to do a wine tasting, if I want to do. So that's going to be a big piece of our charity moving forward, is taking advantage of that as well.
That's great. So now we're going to wind down here a little bit. I like to call it the teardown.
Yeah.
No one likes to show up when it's time to clean up. So,
yeah.
So do you have any particular or best piece of advice you've received from anyone in regards to putting together a successful event?
I just think for me, running my own gym and being the guy in control and liking being the person in control. And I would think it probably goes for a lot of people who start out with these events, who they're the passionate one. You've got to be willing to let other people do some things and get involved, be it volunteer, listening to their ideas. We did a thing, we got a giant flag this year, kind of like at football games when they score a touchdown, you run a flag.
Yep.
Sherry, who's one of my members and now works for me part-time in the gym, came up with that idea. We were sitting there talking. She said, "What if you did?" Like, that's a great idea, Sherry. And so before every ride, we had usually someone with a Parkinson's connection or with Parkinson's, come up, share a story. They grabbed that flagpole and they ran it around the gym. It was a huge hit. And then we had all the all-day riders sign the flag, and we're going to do that every year. So the flag gets fuller and fuller of signatures. And it was huge. People like, that was such a cool part. That wasn't my idea. That was listening to someone else. And I really think you have to, if you want something to continue to grow, you have to be willing to accept help. And your ideas aren't always the best ideas.
Yeah. Believe it or not, other people have answered the same way and saying, delegate and build a good team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's huge. And just find the people who are as passionate as you are about, it comes back to this all-day rider thing. It's not about me anymore. It's not about me riding all day. I joked with those guys that I said, we were at the party after, we had 2 beers on an empty stomach right after the ride. And I said, guys, said the whole mileage thing. So they're like, how many miles did you do? I don't really know, because I was hopping off and I was doing things. I said, it's kind of like I've created a network marketing charity pyramid scheme. I said, I did it once. I did all the work. I did all the miles. And now I get you guys to come in and join me. I don't have to do as many miles because you're doing all the work. And they're just laughing. But they enjoy it. And it's, they might not be doing it for the exact same reason I am, to honor my mom and my dad, but it's giving them something that they're looking for. And we don't all have to have the same reasons to do it. Some people, it's going to be purely the physical event of it. Some people, it's going to be, hey, I really care about Eric and I knew his mom, or my grandma had Parkinson's. Some people are going to have that connection, but some aren't, and that's okay. And to get other people doing what you're doing and getting excited about it, even if it's for different reasons, is okay.
Yeah, that's great. So what is the funniest thing you've seen at any of your fundraising events?
The funniest thing? Well, one of the funnier things is, so Pat and Sherry, who I've talked about, Pat and Sherry are 2 people. They're very, very now good friends of mine. I started training them when I first started like being banker/trainer guy, right? Like 2008. And so they've been with me through everything. I went and said, I'm going to go get a real job for a while. And they're like, well, can we still come work out with you on Saturday morning? Sure. And they've always been here for me. They're 2 great friends. Well, every year, usually, hey, I want to get a picture. People say, hey, let's get a picture after the event. And every year I'll take a picture with them, and, I'll put my arms around them and I'll hand my phone to someone and I'll say, it's on video. And I hand the person who's taking the pictures in on it, it's on video. And so I'm really sweaty when we're
Oh,
done with
sure.
these rides. And I got my arm, and I'll take their heads and I'll go like this, and they fall for it every year. Like, how do you not know it's coming? They're just not thinking. And they fall
Yeah,
for it
they're
every
too
year, and
shy.
it's pretty funny. So
So-
that's my funniest moment. Probably not theirs, but that's
Yeah.
funny.
So you mentioned that you're doing the New York Marathon. I like to
Yep.
ask people, what is your favorite event? It can be a concert, it can be a festival, it can be an endurance event. Like, what do you mark on your calendar and look forward to?
You know, the big events, honestly, one of my favorite things is just it's what I mark in my calendar. Is my weeks are very busy, running the gym, the charity. I teach my first class at 5 a.m. in the morning. I'm usually not home till 7 p.m. My favorite event is Sunday nights. We're a blended family, so every other weekend we don't have our kids. Sunday nights, twice a month, my wife and I get to have date night, and we watch a movie and eat Chinese food.
Yeah.
And that is, and yesterday was Mother's Day. Her and I spent the day kicking around looking at flowers, and came home and had our dinner and everything. But the little stuff like that are traditions to me, are honestly some of the best things. I look back at things with my parents, and they're both no longer with me. My parents were good at those little things, and I look at almost the little events that are consistent as the most important.
That's great. Well, Eric, if someone wanted to reach out to you and learn more about maybe how to put this together event on, or maybe, put a satellite location, how could they get in touch with you?
They can anywhere on social media. So Peloton for Parkinson's is
Mhm.
is its own page on Facebook, its own page on Instagram. Search me on Facebook. Now you see what my face looks like. If you're watching this, there's another Eric Tostrud who lives in Woodbury, Minnesota. I'm not him. Believe it or not, there's two Eric Tostruds. I'm the one in Hudson, Wisconsin. Message me there. My email for the charity is Eric at PelotonForParkinsons.com. My gym is Eric at zonefit.com. Twitter, I'm on there. Just reach out to me anywhere. I'm always really happy to help people and just say, here's what I do. It works for me. If I can help people out and raise money for their charity, be it if it's for Parkinson's or cancer or MS or whatever it is, I'm happy to help.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Eric. And I think a lot of people are going to take away something from this. Thank you so much.
Great. Well, I appreciate you having me on. Thanks, Brian.